Hi everyone, I'm Jingying. I'm going to introduce our work Explain MR generating real-time textual and visual explanations to facilitate ultrasonography learning in mixed reality. Mixed reality tutoring has been proven highly effective for teaching physical tasks and motor skills such as machine operation, UI operation, and welding. By providing immersive guidance, MR enhances both the learning experience and skill acquisition. However, most existing MR systems are designed for single-path tasks where learners follow a fixed sequence of actions. While these systems use visual cues for motion guidance, they often lack explanations for why specific actions are recommended. This gap in explanatory feedback makes the current systems limited in ultrasonography training. Our work aims to bridge this gap by integrating explanations into MR tutoring to enhance both motor skills and strategic troubleshooting, helping trainees understand both how and why actions are taken. We contextualize our work in cardiac ultrasonography training. To quickly assess heart function, the doctor places a probe on patient's chest and captures ultrasound images of the heart. These images provide critical insights into cardiac function like chamber size, wall thickness, and basic valve function. For medical trainees, the first fundamental skill is to obtain these images correctly. Obtaining images means capturing slices of the targeted organ, such as the heart. Sonographers acquire standard views like parasternal long-axis view and three types of parasternal short-axis views, each representing a distinct slice from different angles. You might wonder, why not just memorize the probe position? In real clinical settings, this approach doesn't work because heart anatomy varies across individuals. Instead, sonographers must adjust the probe without looking at it, relying solely on the ultrasound images to troubleshoot and refine their positioning. For example, if the left image appears on the ultrasound machine while the target is the parasternal short-axis view on the right, the sonographer must adjust the probe to transform the current image into the correct one. The first essential skill is troubleshooting. It involves learning common strategies, such as sweeping the probe downward to achieve the parasternal short-axis view and applying this approach in similar cases. Moreover, trainees may use an intermediate step, first achieving the left image if it's easier. Second, visual motor skill is essential for identifying the correct movement. As trainees adjust the probe, they continuously assess whether the obtained image aligns with a visual exemplar. For example, if rotation moves the view further away from the target parasternal short-axis view, trainees must recognize the misalignment, switch strategies, and continue exploring. Conversely, if sweeping brings the image closer to the parasternal short-axis view diagram, they should persist in that direction and stop once the view is mostly aligned. Third, visuospatial skill is crucial. It involves the ability to mentally construct a 3D representation of anatomy from 2D ultrasound images. For example, in the current view on machine, the aortic and mitral valves are on the same plane, but the papillary muscle in the target parasternal short-axis view lies in a slightly lower plane. Trainees must recognize this spatial relationship. Based on this understanding, they can determine that sweeping the probe downward is the correct adjustment. Therefore, the design goal of our system is to provide automated learning scaffolds to build troubleshooting, visual motor, and visual spatial skills. First, we introduce sub-goals for troubleshooting tasks, breaking down the learning process into step-by-step adjustments to help trainees systematically refine their probe movements. Second, we integrate explanations for motion guidance in MR, focusing on two key components. First, the key anatomy recognition. Trainees learn to identify anatomical structures and assess whether their obtained ultrasound view aligns with standard views. Second, the 2D-3D view integration. By linking 2D ultrasound images with 3D anatomical structures, we enhance spatial understanding, helping trainees visualize how probe adjustments affect the scanned anatomy. To ensure manageable sub-goals, we design them to be achievable with a single movement. Additionally, each sub-goal is anchored by key anatomical landmarks, helping trainees intentionally bring targeted structures into view. We propose an optimization-based method to model this sub-goal generation strategy. From the initial probe position, the system optimizes movement through a structured approach. First, it samples views along 6 key movement directions: fanning, rocking, rotating, sliding, sweeping, and pressing. Among these sampled views, the system identifies the one most similar to the target parasternal long-axis view, using it to guide the next adjustment. The optimization process repeats for each pair of the current view and the target view until the similarity between them meets a predefined threshold. Using the sub-goal generation method, we developed Explain MR, an immersive tutoring system designed to simulate various troubleshooting cases with automated explanations. To use it, trainees hold the Pico 4 controller vertically, mimicking a real ultrasound probe. They then navigate the virtual probe to obtain the correct ultrasound views. For each question, the trainees are asked to start from a random probe position and achieve parasternal long axis view. They progress through sub-goals. When they are managing to achieve each sub-goal, the trainee will first enter an exploration mode. They can review textual explanations and image-based feedback. Second, the user will select a movement type from the 6 options: fanning, sliding, rocking, sweeping, rotating, and pressing. Third, the trainee can adjust the movement's magnitude for fine-tuning. Finally, they can submit their view for evaluation. If incorrect, a 3D visual cue guides the necessary adjustment will pop up. If correct, they proceed to the next sub-goal. Let's see how Explain MR provide explanations to trainees through an example. Trainees will see textual explanations. The first several sentences summarize the missing and incorrect structures in comparison to the sub-goal image. In this case, the LVAV are missing. The rest explains the relative position of the concerned structures in the 3D space. For example, here the textual explanation prompts the trainees to consider this. If they would like to obtain the left ventricle, which is located at the left and posterior side, and it is below the LA and to the left of RA, shall I make a rotation so that the plane can slice all of them? Second, trainees will see real-time visual explanations as they move the probe. Specifically, they will see the structures in an ultrasound image color-coded and the missing and incorrect structures highlighted. In this way, they can quickly assess whether they are moving toward the sub-goal or away from it. Third, trainees can request animated explanations in a 3D space, showcasing the movement of the plane from the current probe position to the target position, with highlighted intersections between the plane and the target structures along the path. The heart structure is presented in 3 levels. First, the whole heart is displayed. Next, the heart mask is removed to highlight the most important structure, with 3D labels indicating other relevant structures. Finally, only the most important structure remains visible. Here the animation shows that a rotation will make the plane slice with the left ventricle, thus bringing it into the view. To assess the effectiveness of automatically generated explanations in Explain MR, we conducted a between subjects experiment. We recruited 16 medical trainees and divided them into 2 groups. One group trained with the baseline system. The other group used Explain MR with automated explanations. Both conditions follow a question-answering format, guiding trainees through sub-goal-based learning. However, they differ in the type of hints provided. Explain MR offers explanations, helping trainees understand why specific adjustments are needed. Baseline provides motion guidance, including a shadow indicator for correct probe positioning and an animated arrow to show movement direction. Here are the findings. First, both Explain MR and the baseline system improve parasternal long axis view completion time, with Explain MR showing a slight trend towards greater improvement. Second, participants found sub-goals beneficial for providing structured guidance by breaking down the complex process into manageable steps, helping them practice single movements. However, focusing too much on small transitions could hinder the development of fluid real-world ultrasound skills. Third, anatomical textual explanations help learners mentally visualize heart anatomy and encourage independent problem-solving by connecting anatomical knowledge to probe movements. Fourth, visual comparison between the current and target images enhances visual motor and visuospatial skills by helping learners quickly assess their progress toward the desired view. Fifth, the 3D visual cues guided learners through necessary transitions and helped them troubleshoot by explaining how specific movements impacted the view. Finally, baseline participants suggested that the green shadow in the baseline condition limited learning by shifting focus to the probe position rather than the ultrasound screen, making it feel more like gaming for the correct answer rather than learning, while the green arrows were helpful for indicating general movement direction and could be made optional. The main takeaway of this work is the principles for effective explanations in eye-hand coordination tasks. Effective hints require a balance, providing enough guidance to aid learning without fostering dependency. The explanations should also connect the superficial skills like probe movements to the underlying ultrasound imaging principles, helping trainees understand heart anatomy and 3D mental visualization. Additionally, we need to provide visual feedback to reinforce the relations between cause-action and the effect, showing how specific probe adjustments produce the corresponding ultrasound view. The principles behind Explain MR's action guidance explanations could also apply to other high cognitive psychomotor tasks, such as remote drone driving, catheter-based interventions, robotic surgery, and laparoscopic procedures. Thank you for watching. Please refer to our paper for more details.